serious, what are some life-saving tips you think people need to know, and in what situation would they be used? Do not pull objects, knife, glass, splinter etc. from a deep wound. They might be sealing or slowing flow from an artery, or they might cut an artery when you pull them out. Put pressure around such an object to slow bleeding till emergency responders take over. If you fall into water, don't panic. You don't have to be able to swim, you just have to float. Hold your breath and let yourself bob to the surface. If someone is in trouble in the water, they will absolutely kill you in mindless panic. Bring something with you, a float, a rope, a towel, and use that to bridge the gap between you so you can tow the person in. If you must make direct contact, come up from behind and slip your arm across the victim's chest. Pull the victim's back to your chest and keep his/her arms facing away from you. I've been in the death grip of a fat little 8-year-old and he nearly took me out. If a panic drowner does grab you, do everything in your power to go down toward the bottom. Most will let go, that's the last place they want to go. Recognize that even if you are both a strong swimmer and a trained rescuer, you are still risking your own life if you go to the aid of a swimmer in trouble. Take it very seriously. A few survival tips for mainly the desert, but also a lot of places. If you are lost in the desert, or a lot of places for that matter, the number one thing you can carry to increase your chances of being found is a small reflective mirror. Anytime a plane flies overhead, you can reflect light towards them, and you greatly increase your chances of being found. This seriously is more important than carrying more water with you. Not that water doesn't help. It's just not realistic to carry that much water on your back. Furthermore, if you get stranded in the desert with a vehicle, do not leave your vehicle to find people. You are a lot harder to see than your vehicle, and your car can provide shelter. Your car has some good reflective mirrors to signal with, especially the rear view mirror. People die all the time doing this, often found only mere miles from their car. Finally, the universal sign for needing to be rescued is waving two arms up and down. If you wave only one arm to a passing plane, you will not be helped, or at least less likely to be helped. Also, because a few people have been wondering what to do if you can't use both of your arms, there is another universal way to signal for help that is more versatile. The way I can best describe it is 3 of anything quick signal, 3 gunshots, 3 whistle blows, 3 flashes of a flashlight, 3 flashes from a reflective mirror, etc. Just make sure they are spaced widely enough, at least 1 second, and that you spend a considerable time before making your next 3 signals. There have been many deaths that could have been prevented had this advice been followed. When you're making a turn across oncoming traffic, keep your wheels pointing straight ahead until the opportunity comes for you to make the turn. If your wheels are facing into the turn and someone hits you from behind, they will push you into the oncoming traffic and dead you will go. A person who is drowning doesn't look like people drowning on TV. When someone is drowning, they rarely cry out, can't wave their arms around, and will often just bob/sink at the surface for a very little while, often gasping before submerging. Don't expect it to look like the movies when you're keeping an eye on swimmers. If you find yourself hurt in a public place, direct your pleas to one person, not to the crowd, cause everyone will think somebody else will help you. It is called the bystander effect. If someone is choking, but they are coughing/talking, do not intervene. Let them cough it out. The ability to cough is a sign that air is able to get in and out, and that they only have a partial obstruction in their airway. If you try to intervene with the hemorrhage or back blows, you could force it out, or you could dislodge the blockage and cause a full obstruction. Obviously, if they are not breathing or coughing, then you should definitely administer back blows. Just remember to check in between each one in case you partially dislodge the object. I live near the Gulf of Mexico. At the end of one of our beaches, there is a waterway with a heinous rip current. There are signs everywhere, in many languages, warning people not to get in that water, to stay off the jetty. Every single year people drown there because they ignore those signs. I was there every day last week, and each time there were tourists climbing on the wet and slippery jetty despite the signs and the obviously wild water. My tip is for people to obey warning signs. They are there for a reason. If you think you're being followed, turn right 4 times. since you'll get to the same place they shouldn't be following you anymore. If they do, you might be in trouble, since it's a common warning that you shouldn't go home when you think someone is following you. The smartest is to go to a police station. If you're stuck in a stampede, as soon as you get knocked down your chances decrease significantly. If this is the case, however, and you can't get up immediately, assume a protective posture with your feet tucked up and your hands covering your head. Try to position your face in the direction the crowd is moving so you don't get kicked, and try to get back on your feet as soon as possible. Posted before but relevant here. If you see someone wearing a motorcycle helmet have an accident, do not pull their helmet off for any reason. By all means, loosen the chin strap, but leave the helmet on and let the paramedics or doctors deal with it. You don't know what that helmet is holding together. In the US, and I think some other Western countries, you can notify your Department of State that you are going overseas for free. I think it is the Smart Traveler program. This means in event of a natural disaster / political issue / etc, they will know you need evacuation. They also update you on the state of the country as time goes by so you don't accidentally collide with some trouble. A lot of accidents happen just by being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So if you're traveling, it might be worth looking into. If you're performing CPR on someone who's stopped breathing / heart has stopped, don't stop until EMTs take the body away. Don't stop after 2 minutes thinking, well, that didn't work. CPR typically won't cause the victim's heart to suddenly start and or for them to jerk awake. It's mostly to force blood circulation to prevent brain death. You're not forcing life into them, you're preserving a corpse to keep a revivable state. If you get caught in a rip current, swim horizontally / parallel to the shore at the fastest speed you can comfortably maintain. Don't worry that you're going further out. Eventually you'll be out of the current and can slowly head back inland. Try to swim against it and you'll just tire yourself until you drown. I think the overall thing to keep in mind is that in high stress moments you will not rise to the occasion, but you will sink to your level of training. Like Mike Tyson said, everyone hath a plan until they get punched in the mouth. If it's brown, lie down. If it's black, fight back. If it's white, you're fricked. For bear encounters, I've met so many casual hikers in bear country with no idea there's bears in the same woods as them. If you are giving CPR and worrying about getting the compression timing right, just do it in time with another one bites the dust. Or if that makes you uncomfortable, you can also do it to staying alive. If you ever get lost, the first thing to do is stop moving, sit down, stop freaking out, and think. If you give in to panic and lose your head, you can screw things up so badly for yourself that help will never find you. Remember the rule of 3. Starvation will kill you in 3 weeks. Thirst will kill you in 3 days. Cold will kill you in 3 hours. Lack of oxygen will kill you in 3 minutes. Panic will kill you in 3 seconds. Learn a proper backstroke. Not only is it pretty efficient, it can save your life. It's likely too late for anyone to see this, but hopefully this helps a few. Nuclear warfare is a serious threat that hasn't been mentioned yet. The following was common knowledge during the Cold War era, but most people my age don't know what to do in a nuclear disaster. In a nuclear explosion, most of the damage and death is caused by the shockwave the blast creates, not the fireball, which has a comparatively small radius. One day you may find yourself outside or looking out a window to see an extremely bright flash, as bright as if you were staring straight at the sun. Do not attempt to locate the source of the flash. You have maybe 8-10 seconds to respond. If you're far enough away from the fireball, lay face down on the ground and put your thumbs in your ears and fingers over your eyes. Breathe through your teeth. Since you're laying face down, the shockwave will mostly pass over you. If you're standing up, it can cause your lungs, eardrums, and other organs to explode. Once the shockwave passes over you, you need to find shelter immediately. I said before that most death from the explosion is caused by the shockwave. Well, far more death is subsequently caused by nuclear fallout after the blast. Do not attempt to travel anywhere. Just get underground. If you're next to a complete stranger's house or a business, don't hesitate to go inside and hide out under as much concrete and steel as possible. You need to remain in this location for the next 48 hours. This is critical. Even if you survive the blast, if you attempt to go home and spend just 20 minutes outside traveling, you will more than likely die of radiation sickness. Radioactive material after a blast decays exponentially, and you will be safe to try and find your loved ones after 48 hours. If you don't wait this out, you definitely won't be alive to find them. When you're ready, you need to leave the city and get as far from the fallout as you can. If you're turning left and can't see, do not trust the guy in the opposite turn lane waving you through. Pay attention to your gut and natural intuition. If you feel like you're in danger, it's because you're in danger, even if you can't quite articulate why. If a person seems sketchy or threatening, it's because they are. Intuition is finely developed by evolution, and generally speaking, it will only fail you when you trick yourself and deny it in order to appease an extremely modern sense of political correctness. Read The Gift of Fear by Gavin D. Becker. Frequent pre-victimization indicators displayed by predators include forced teaming. This is when a person implies that they have something in common with their chosen victim, acting as if they have a shared predicament when that isn't really true. Speaking in we terms is a mark of this. That is, we don't need to talk outside. Let's go in. Charm and niceness. This is being polite and friendly to a chosen victim in order to manipulate him or her by disarming their mistrust. Too many details. If a person is lying, they will add excessive details to make themselves sound more credible to their chosen victim. Typecasting. An insult is used to get a chosen victim who would otherwise ignore one to engage in conversation to counteract the insult. For example, "Oh, I bet you're too stuck up to talk to a guy like me." The tendency is for the chosen victim to want to prove the insult untrue. Loan sharking. Giving unsolicited help to the chosen victim and anticipating they'll feel obliged to extend some reciprocal openness in return. The unsolicited promise. A promise to do or not do something when no such promise is asked for. This usually means that such a promise will be broken. For example, an unsolicited "I promise I'll leave you alone after this" usually means the chosen victim will not be left alone. Similarly, an unsolicited "I promise I won't hurt you" usually means the person intends to hurt their chosen victim. Discounting the word no. Refusing to accept rejection. When walking in Big 5 territory, if you encounter lions, don't run. If they come towards you, growling, it's to say you are too close, but they will not attack you. Just walk away slowly and don't lose sight of them, or stand your ground. Intelligence is your biggest weapon then. Shout and clap your hands and they will run away. Source: Kruger Wildlife Guide. With more than 10 encounters with wild lions in the last year. Seriously, don't run. Tips for cold weather. Dress in layers, hold heat in better. Stay dry. Protect your feet, hands, and face. If you plan on going long distances, have a plan to move on top of the snow and let people know where you are going. Never go on ice unless it is at least 4 inch thick. 6 inches if you have a snowmobile. 8 inches for a small car. 12 inches for medium trucks. Clear ice is stronger than snow ice. Always watch for signs of frostbite and hypothermia. FAST, which is a way to identify if you or someone else is having a stroke. Facial drooping, a section of the face, usually only on one side, that is drooping and hard to move. This can be recognized by a crooked smile. A REM weakness, the inability to raise one's arm fully. Speech difficulties, an inability or difficulty to understand or produce speech. TIME, if any of the symptoms above are showing. time is of the essence, call the emergency services or go to the hospital. Never talk to the police without a lawyer. Just give your name, address and job. Otherwise don't say a word. It might not keep your heart from stopping, but nothing ruins a life faster than prison. Even a conviction can stop you from getting work or being able to travel. Also don't commit crime. But since being innocent doesn't guarantee that you won't be charged/convicted, the above still applies. If a service dog comes to you for attention, immediately locate their owner. They could be using a last-ditch effort to get help. A few months ago, when I was on a delivery for work, I was stopped by a dog who ran out in the middle of the road, residential. I got out and tried to move the dog, but it followed me all the way to the door of my delivery. Once I was done, I checked the dog's tag to bring it home, and I noticed he had all kinds of medical tags. After I realized what the dog was trying to do, I ran towards the correct address and the dog led me through a screen door on the porch. His owner was passed out on the floor, and I called 911. The individual had a phone, brought by the dog, by its head, and a bag of medications by his side. The dog had done everything it was trained to do, but the person had passed out before it could do anything. The ambulance came, got his pulse back, and took him to the hospital. I don't know if he ended up surviving, but if I hadn't checked the dog's tags and realized it was a medical animal, I wouldn't have hurried, blatantly invite myself in his house, and ultimately get him to a point of survival. If your car breaks down in a remote area, cut off from civilization, stay with it. To draw attention, burn a tire during daylight. Somebody is likely to see the thick, black smoke. This is for driving on snowy or icy roads. If you ever start skidding, do not brake. That will only lock the tires and frick you harder. What you need to do is take your feet off the pedals and steer with the skid until the tires find grip again. Look behind you every so often when you're hiking. If you think you're being watched, chances are you probably are. Have been for quite a while. Bring a mirror as well. If you turn around, you ruin the element of surprise for any hungry predators, and they'll likely scurry away or at least give you time to escape. If you ever need to break your car window or headrests detach, and the metal ends are meant to be used to break the glass. Helpful if you are in a sinking car. If you work around stuff that can cut someone easy, metal scrap, sheet metal, or really any factory or construction work, wear a belt. IDC if you don't need one to hold your pants up. A belt can be a quick, easy tourniquet and save a life. Source: my belt saved a life. Don't text/drink and drive. How to use a EpiPen. It's for when someone is having a severe allergic reaction. Super easy and most models are the same. Take pen, auto-injecting syringe, out of tube. Then take the blue safety cap off the non-injecting end. Stab with a swinging motion the orange needle end firmly into the affected person's outer thigh. You won't see a needle, it pops out when the orange end is depressed. There is no need to remove basic cloth/pants first. You will hear and feel a click/pop. Hold it there for a few seconds. Call your emergency response number if someone hasn't already. If someone grabs your wrists, pull away quickly where their thumbs are. Thumbs are the weakest parts in a grip. Stop stopping for people. You're walking alone at night and sketchy dude comes up and says, "Hey man, can I ask you a question?" Keep walking, Jack. If you wanna keep talking to him, do it over your shoulder as you walk on by. I have no data to back this up, but I'd wager at least a quarter of muggings, assaults, etc. that happen to people by strangers could be avoided if they just kept charging forward in a brisk fashion. I personally have 3 friends who were mugged or assaulted because they stopped for somebody who then got the jump on them. My wife listens to this podcast called My Favorite Murder all the time and it personally annoys me endlessly. But they have a mantra. Frick politeness that I could not agree with more. Go with your gut and your instincts. If it feels dangerous, it probably is. If an undiabetic person faints/gets dizzy, give them something sugary immediately. If they got sick because of high sugar levels, hyperglycemia, the repercussions of increasing their sugar won't be as terrible as the damage caused if no action is taken. Giving that little amount of sugar, if they fainted due to a hypoglycemic episode, can be life-saving. Kids don't float. For a number of reasons. kids aren't as buoyant as adults. Kids should always wear a life vest when in a boat of any sort, as well as when playing around streams, ponds, lakes, oceans, etc. A small child can drown in no time. In many places there are laws requiring kids to wear life vests in boats. Where I live, vests are also required at public recreation areas. Fire departments even have free loaners. Those inflatable armband flow eyes/wings aren't sufficient. They can easily slip off, or the KD will take them off. They can pop. They also give adults a false sense of safety and not watch the kids closely enough. And don't forget that a drowning kid may be perfectly silent, no thrashing around or crying out, just quietly not breathing. Never take your eyes off a small child in the water, period. You should go to the hospital immediately if you feel sleepy after a head injury. People have died because they tried to sleep off those types of headaches. I learned this from Reddit. Beware of a stranger who says I'm not going to hurt you. If someone feels the need to say this, they are thinking of hurting you. Trust your instincts. If you feel there is danger in a situation, there probably is. Don't let politeness or fear of embarrassment put you in danger. Source: The Gift of Fear. Very interesting and useful book. Highly recommended. Drink too much booze at a party? Way to waste it. Room spinning. Building nausea. Go throw up. Seriously, it's a bit embarrassing, but you won't die of alcohol poisoning. If you are beginning using drugs and wonder whether your life has gone downhill, or if it's still just a phase, try to reconnect to old friends, 1-2 years, when they tell you, "I didn't recognize you, you've changed etc." then you are definitely way off the road. Buy a plunger and fire extinguisher before you need a plunger or fire extinguisher. If you're being tied up, puff yourself out as much as possible, so it'll be easier to wiggle out of. Tense muscles. Inhale deep and stretch out your arms and legs to make more space. For the love of God, if someone is having a seizure, do not put a spoon or any other object in their mouth to prevent them swallowing their tongue. Been to a fair few places, and the one that kept me from harm most is always be aware of your surroundings. Seems common sense, but you can't only imagine the number of people who might have escaped harm were they a little more attentive to the world around them. In any place, in any situation, focusing less on yourself and more on what's going on around you will keep you alive longer than just about anything. You can kick a threatening person in the kneecap, and if you hit squarely they will collapse 100% of the time regardless of size. When unlocking a car, only click the button once. It unlocks the driver's side door only, especially if you are in a sketchy situation, creepy parking garage at night, anyone, or are someone who could be seen as a target. Do this to be sure you are the only one who gets in your car. Carry a basic first aid or emergency kit in your car on your person/work/home. Everyone laughs at me for this. I have a kit I added a whole bunch to Myla, little snacks, etc. Not just for doomsday prep, but imagine you get stranded in a storm or snow, or like a comment above mentions a desert. Having some water, food, Myla blankets, and some others could very well save your life until you can be rescued. Not only this, but my work first aid kit sucks. Legit. Some tiny band-aids and a few alcohol wipes. I've gotten bad wounds that weren't hospital/go home worthy, but would have been a bish to go the rest of the shift without a bandage. My little sister had a bad bug bite. They weren't laughing when I had sting relief. My coworker forgot her lunch. I gave her one of the bars, a fruit snack, and shared some of my lunch. If you are going to open a box with a knife, you should always pull away from you. One of my mom's friends pulled towards her when she opened a box and now she is blind in one eye. If you are buying drugs, not suggesting or condoning it, if your dealer starts walking up to your predetermined meeting spot with anyone else, leave. It's a robbery. And if you're behind on him, always show up with a friend who can fight. Lots of drug dealers have friends who are bangers. Also, if your dealer starts to seem a little weirder approaching your buy, like changing the location 5 or 6 times, something is up. Maybe he is out on bail, or he owes lots of money to his supplier. Know where you are. Are you at home? Know your address. Some people don't. Believe it or not. Are you at work? Know your address. Are you at the store or other business? Know where to find an employee. They know the address. Driving, know exactly where you are. Street name, direction of travel, intersection, mile marker, etc. Hiking, know which trailhead you started at and which trail you're on. At the very least, 911 cell phone location technology is good to within 50 meters. That's 50 steps, which could put first responders at the house or business next door. Imagine you're in an emergency situation that's rapidly changing. Domestic violence, active shooter, carjacking, etc. You call 911. The first thing out of your mouth should be "I'm at location." That way, if you must hang up for some reason, 911 operators will know where you are. They'll send police to check it out and get you the help you need. Don't panic. Useful in all situations. Something I've seen on Reddit before. When getting a new home/apartment, get a carbon monoxide detector. They're cheap and can save your life. If you're outside in a lightning storm and your hair starts floating, seek immediate shelter. You're about to be struck by lightning. If immediate, within 15 seconds of movement, shelter is not available, put both your feet together, squat down on the balls of your feet, and grab your ankles. If you're struck, this will give the lightning a direct path down to the ground and hopefully minimize damage. Student paramedic here. So many people know how to give CPR and that's amazing. But if you ever get into the situation with a baby, please do not tilt their head back. You will occlude their airway. It's heartbreaking to tell parents their child is deceased when they thought they were doing the right thing. If you go hiking, always tell someone where you are going and when you should be back. When you arrive, leave note on your dashboard that says where you are going and expected time back. If you realize that you are lost and can't reasonably find your way back to a trail, stay put. It is common to watch survival shows where they say follow a river or a fence so that you find people, but this often ends up in death. Common search techniques benefit more from you not moving, so they only have check each area once. Look left and right twice before you cross the road and never cross the highway. If you are caught in an active shooter situation and you are unable to run away or hide, start throwing things at them. It is incredibly difficult to be accurate with a firearm with someone throwing stuff at you. Even small things flying toward you triggers your desire to avoid the object, and dodging something while simultaneously shooting accurately is almost impossible. Or thrown stapler or keyboard might buy you enough time to either rush the attacker or escape somewhere. I had a friend get lost and go down a logging road and get snowed in. She was reported missing for several days. When they found her, she'd managed to keep herself alive by packing the single water bottle she had with her with snow, placing it on the roof of her car, and waiting for it to melt. Then she'd drink and repeat. If she hadn't thought to do this, she'd be dead. She had frostbite on her toes, but after several weeks of physical therapy made a full recovery. Common signs of head trauma include different size of pupils and disorientation. Have them sit down and call first responders immediately. Crap can go south real quick. If they're bleeding like the Black Knight in Monty Python, spraying, not necessarily limb loss but also applies. It's likely an artery and needs to be mitigated. Apply a tourniquet immediately at the highest point possible on their limb that's bleeding. Does not apply to torso, neck and head. If you don't have one, use a belt, backpack straps, or anything roughly a ½ inch wide, flat and long. Twist as tightly to secure. Do not remove. Call first responders. Tell someone to call first responders. People won't do it unless being told. If they are bleeding, like above to the torso/neck/head, apply pressure with a clean, if possible, cloth or towel. Clothing works. If you find someone laying down/passed out, check for breathing. Are they sweaty? Is it really hot? If they are too hot, get them into shade inside as soon as possible and cool them down as fast as you can. Call first responders. If you're unsure if first responders should be called but you're concerned, call them. Ask for a welfare check. They'll be more than happy you did, even if the person you are calling for doesn't want you to. Recovery position. Laying down on your left side. Outstretch your left arm past your head. Make sure to like and subscribe so we can watch together.